afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for kicking off a new series of open mic events together with us here at the Novartis Pavilion. I'm really excited to be back, and I'm really looking forward to an engaging discussion on how AI and quantum will further shape the future of healthcare and life sciences in general. My name is Rael. I am working for Switzerland Innovation Park Basel area. And for those of you who do not know us yet, we are creating a community of healthcare, health tech, and digital health enthusiasts here on the Novartis campus. And activating this health tech community is actually a joint effort together with DayOne Healthcare Innovation. And this is the Health Tech Accelerator and also the curator of this event series. And I'm very happy to be here with my colleague Ursula da Costa, Director of DayOne. But before I hand over, I also want to introduce, I welcome the online audience today. As usual, we have Mentimeter in place. You find the QR code to join the system on the screens. So feel free to share your questions with the moderator. And then later on during the Q&A session, there will also be live questions and a mix of online questions. But now with that, over to you, Ursula.
Thank you so much, Rahel, and thank you everybody on site, online. I also want to extend a very big thank you to the sponsors of this event for making it happen. So Novartis and Bearing Point, thank you for letting us all be here and to enjoy this conversation. I know all of you didn't come to listen to me. You came to listen to the speakers. So I'm going to shut up very quick, I promise. And I just don't want to take more of the time, and I want to introduce the speakers of today. So please, Iris Greve, partner from Bearing Point, come on stage. She will help moderate the event today and will take you through all the session. So I want to warmly welcome Leslie Fent from Roche. Welcome. I want to continue thanking Matias Roser, so Global Leader Technology at Bearing Point and partner. So please, Matias. And last but not least, Alexandra Beckstein, CEO and co-founder of QIA Ventures, who will be also with us today. So with these four fantastic speakers, I'm sure we will have a great 1 hour, a bit more than 1 hour, including questions from the audience here, from the audience online. So please, Iris, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ursula. It's great to be here. As you already heard, my name is Iris, or Iris, whatever you prefer. Partner in Bearing Point, working cross markets and responsible for the region Germany, Switzerland, Austria. And I'm delighted to have a great panel today because what we want to do, we want to see how we can grasp and channel the advantages technology holds for life sciences. Of course, we want to look into it. How can we sensibly embed this in R&D? And last but not least, of course, it's important to get the stakeholders, investors, patients, etc., the regulator on board for the new cures and products. So that's going to set the scene for today. And I'll hand over to you, Leslie.
Thanks.
What have you brought for us?
Thanks so much, Iris. Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Leslie. I now work for about 12 years for Roche, the other company in Basel. I'm an organic chemist by training, but then went into consulting. And yeah, at Roche, first mainly worked in more traditional pharma, sales, marketing, and business strategy roles. And now in the last 4-ish years, I work in digital health within Roche, which is really a really emerging business unit for us. And on the one hand, I lead a program of a concrete use case and the product, but I also am really involved in helping to shape our thinking, our strategy, our operating model for digital health, and then fuse it with our core business and with the entire organization. So really excited for the topic today, naturally.
What about you, Matias?
Yeah, Matias, I'm partner at Bearing Point as well. leading our global technology service line, meaning the consultants that work closely together with the business consultants, having a technology background, a huge group of people, making a lot of experience, especially in those times when technology becomes so dominant again. We've seen those cycles in the past. Given my background, I studied physics, was active in solar physics for quite some time. Studied the sun, observed the sun, and then went into consulting at the time when companies did discuss whether they need one email address or two. There was that time. Nowadays, involved in a lot of large-scale enterprise transformation driven by technology, serving our clients and helping them in getting there. And as well managing a think tank, mainly as the hub in Germany, where we think where this all will lead us as humans and society.
Thank you. My name is Alexandra. I'm leading a company that is called Kai Ventures. We are based here in Basel in Arlesheim. And Kai Ventures is doing investments and acceleration of startups that develop quantum technology or that develop with quantum technology. That also do they do AI that can be accelerated with quantum. And we do this because we believe strongly in building an ecosystem, and the instruments we built up, this investment fund and an acceleration program, allows us to bring all the players that are important to develop a new technology like quantum and also like AI to develop it and to make it industrially useful or economic useful. We are born out of a bigger project that is called Uptown Basel. And Uptown Basel is an innovation campus that focuses in general on Industry 4.0. And before I founded Kai Ventures, we developed Quantum Basel, you might have heard of. And Quantum Basel has the goal to bring quantum computing to the industry, to democratize quantum computing. We believe one step more that we don't only need to use and to educate people to use the technology, but to develop the technology where it is developed at the startup scale. And this is what we do. We do this since 1 year, and I'm very much looking forward to this discussion.
So let's stick with you. Where do we stand today? Because we have the buzzwords, you're on top of it. So what would you say, where do you stand from a quantum perspective, or you from an AI or Matias' general perspective?
Yeah, maybe we should first set the stage about quantum technology. There is different types of quantum technology, and they all make use of quantum mechanics. I don't go into the details here, but it makes use of natural processes that happens in subatomic structures. So, or particles, not structures. So the technologies that are important for medtech and pharma, I would focus on quantum sensing and quantum computing. This is the two main technologies. Quantum sensing is a very nice technology to talk about because it works and it's already commercialized and we all know it. Like the old quantum sensors, they are, an MRI, for example, has a quantum sensor involved. So whenever you enter an MRI, actually what it does, it makes your whole body, every atom, to create a spin to put into a quantum state. So it makes your body itself to a quantum sensor. That's very mind-blowing, I find. Of course, today, this is an older technology. It's quantum sensing, but today quantum technology advanced in a very rapid way that makes it possible to see really the states that happens in a living cell that we can use in drug discovery to see how a living cell reacts to the drug. This is all. It can be done by quantum sensors. Also happening on the basis of carbon structures, where you take a carbon structure out and you put a nitrogen atom in and leave a void, and for this you create a magnetometer. And what you actually measure with a quantum sensor is kind of is currency. So this is quantum sensing. Works, commercialized. I would say, yes, it's also for us a good investment case, right? So, but what draws more attention of the industry is quantum computing. And my colleagues, he says, quantum computing is in the state where we were with classical computing, maybe in the 50s. But the difference is that we move much faster than from the 50s to today. We move much, much faster. We accelerate much faster. And we have a lot of obstacles, technical obstacles to overcome. But it is the first time in history that we developed a computer system that does not work on a binary basis. It works really on qubits that helps and not on bits, so that allows us to scale exponentially. So there is also no, we discussed before, so there is no way that it will not happen. So everything what a quantum computer does is it memes a natural system, and we just have to understand how to control it. This is the only challenge, I would say. And if you ask me now where we stand, we already start to use it with the help of AI, with the help of GPUs, with the help of simulating quantum through mathematical models. But to use a real quantum computer, I don't doubt to say a number, because I know it's also recorded, and it's a big discussion. How long will it take? But we are not there yet. But we are on the way to understand what we have to do to get there.
And how does AI kick in? Where would you say, are you ahead of them?
Well, I would argue, yes, AI is ahead of quantum computing in terms of maturity. But I think, yeah, so at the moment, the AI in healthcare, what's going on is absolutely wild, right? So I think the question is just, what can you not do? What can you not disrupt? What could you not improve with AI? Because you find at least a scientific or a technological use case in almost any kind of healthcare setting or problem or challenge that you can imagine. But there's also a little bit, on the one hand, that's also a problem because you lack focus and it's a little bit like all over the place. Also, just because you can do something from a technology perspective doesn't necessarily mean you should. There are other elements that are really important, like is it feasible? Can you actually bring it into the practice? Is this desirable? Is that something that people actually want? Is it viable? Can you pay? Is someone paying for it? Can you make money with it? These are all parts of how to make AI successful. And I think it's also really interesting because what's really going on at the frontier of technology, I mean, now we're talking a lot about generative AI, of course, is kind of really outpacing what you can even implement at this moment in healthcare, because with AI, you're very, very quickly in a regulated space. So you are then considered a medical device that is regulated. And, regulators don't like things that are a black box. Generative AI is mostly a black box because you feed it a lot of data, and then it generates completely like new content. But it's very hard to interpret that data or explain that data and how it comes to its conclusions. And that's really prohibitive from a regulatory standpoint. And so we have this kind of really interesting tension where what technology can do and what technology does in the consumer realm is growing further and further away from what you can actually at the moment do in healthcare, because you need to follow the regulation for very good reasons, right? Because if we say AI can save lives, well, it can also impact lives negatively. And so if you do not regulate, there's a big risk that it eventually will. And I think we're a little bit in the Wild West where not all companies who actually push AI solutions really adhere to that standard. And I think that's something that, well, as an industry, we should be really mindful about, because that can undermine everyone's effort, those that who comply and those that don't. And then I think I'm talking now a lot about like AI in clinical applications, clinical care setting, for speaking not on behalf, but within a big pharma company, we really think like end to end from our pharma value chain. How can we leverage AI and beyond. I like the beyond in the title, which makes a big topic even bigger, but really like technology in making things more efficient, faster, cheaper, less resource intense, less tedious, honestly, for everyone who had to, do a lot of documentation in pharma. That definitely is an advantage as well. Really all the way from drug discovery to post-market, commercial, medical affairs.
Matias, what's your view? When will this come together, or will it, or won't it?
I think it will come together, and one thing that changed in the past 2 years, 1.5 years, is that we think the human in the middle, the human in the loop. This was not always the case with technology. So we had technologies that we needed to master with some experts being involved, and somehow in a lab setting, and then it's spread out as consumer products. Now the human is in the loop, and private humans are in the loop. We talk about the ChatGPT moment, when millions of humans started to use this kind of interaction, and it attracted the human because it showed some human behavior, this prompting, it's always, you're addicted to it sometimes, to test it, to understand how it's reacting, and this is new, and this is why it's unstoppable, because the human have always gone to kind of understand where is the limit and kind of how to measure themselves against some intelligent systems, and exactly this is happening now. And when you look at those technologies then that we are currently experimenting with, as well as consultants or our customers are experimenting with, they learn a lot, and they learn at a very fast pace, and learning is as well enabled by those tools, It's interesting. So what we are currently doing is we are designing not prompting system, not technology solutions that provide us answers. We are providing interaction cycles where intelligence talks to intelligence. And what is very interesting as well is it's not one technology, but when we are addressing real use cases, then we have several intelligent systems and several humans interacting as a team. And this is a completely new thing, and this is really why it's unstoppable, because everything will be tried. You cannot stop the human doing those things. And then when it comes to the regulators, yes, the regulators, they seem to be the blockers of the story. Show over once we want to have the signature from FDA, but guess what? FDA is thinking the same way. They want to use this technology to manage their complexity, because regulation has become a nightmare, because they're kind of attracting more and more data, requiring more and more data, but can they manage that data? No, but GenAI might be the answer for them as well. So they're highly interested in that, and this is why they're very proactive currently, the European regulators as well as the FDA, to get into it and to support the market in a safe way. Can they do it in a safe way? They are not the ones that are the speediest, but they need to at that point in time. And that's what you're looking at. This is the big thing. And not to forget, it's as well a political game. It's a game of money. You were talking about like the volume of startups, the volume of new entrants that are kind of around the corner to disrupt business models. On the one hand side, on the other hand side, you have the big tech companies that have a market capitalization that we have never seen before.
Who's going to
tomorrow I can read in the newspaper that they will take over Novartis or Roche. This is the scale of thing that we're talking about. Not technology providers can design the game here, and this is as well new, and we need to be very careful. And when it comes to quantum computing, we are currently preparing for the quantum age, but when it happens, it's like the popcorn in a pan when it starts to pop. Once this happens, the ones that have this tool in hand will have the power. And this is very important, especially when you look at the current political situation worldwide. And this is why we understand that people are investing. And when you want to see investment patterns in the world along investments in generative AI, you just need to understand who is building power plants currently to feed those animals. So this is kind of the big umbrella, and we need to know what our role is in this game, and but human in the loop. is the door
And you
opener.
said it's unstoppable, but we already heard there's some challenges. Mass adoption tipping point has not been reached everywhere. What about the risks? Everything's probably doable. You mentioned the regulator.
Well, there's some massive risks around the corner. Just a short reminder. These machines that we're talking about in a generative AI context are fed by data. You need data. But I mean, think about some years ahead. What is clean data in some years when everything is produced by Gen AI? The internet is flooded with these data. When the research reports that you rely on in a lab, in a pharma research lab or any kind of medical lab, are fraudly generated by AI. Kind of what do you feed into an engine and into your local LLM?
Yeah.
That's a big risk, and we need to really be aware of what proper data is. We need to protect it and start to think about it, and later hopefully invest and find solutions.
I would even go a step further in this. Don't see it as a new technology. I heard a lot of people saying, see it as a new species that you can use and that can be controlled, not by people that understand technology, but by everybody. You don't need to be able to program. You just need your own language to tell the species or the system what to do. And this is where we have to rethink everything what we know, all the systems, all the democracy we know. We have to create new values. We have to make people to think about what they actually could influence, to make people more empathic, more collaborative, and so on. So I would not stop at controlling a technology, but on educating the society in using it. Because every one of us in the room will be using it in the next years, or is already starting to use it, of course.
I think there's also a risk that is maybe, with all these technologies, that is maybe less acute, but very insidious, is that we kind of lose focus on the why we are doing this, right? We always lead with technology first and kind of technical feasibility first, but this is in service of, improving humanity at the largest scale. And so it's really important with AI to understand why, what problem am I really solving? And is this a valid problem? And is AI the best way of doing it, right? I recently had a conversation with someone where AI was not the best way of doing it, and it's actually much cheaper to use another technology to do it, right? And that is the better solution, maybe for everything except your valuation as a startup, because I think there's some industry reports that as soon as there's AI in your pitch, your valuation is 15 to 20% higher, which, a no comment. But so I think what's really important with all this technology, especially in this time of hype and frenzy, is to come back to the basics and say, what are we really solving? And a lot of the time, it's not necessarily the latest technology or the latest hype that will solve your problem the best. And so you really have to kind of choose the right tool. Is this old adage, when you have a hammer, like every problem is a nail, right? Let's not do this with AI. And because for a lot, we talk a lot about the hype and the frenzy, but a lot of these solutions are at the beginning of the innovation funnel. If you think you have on the one end your idea, or probably for all of you it's the other way around, so let me start here left. But you have your idea, and then you bring it into concept, you bring it into proof of concept, you scale it, and then you really scale it internationally and wide. And so a lot of the hype is happening in the early stages, and there's a big risk in just neglecting that scale up, because that's really where the value comes from. Here is a lot of the noise and the activity. And at the beginning, technical feasibility is very important, but in the later stages is much more about, do you have the right business model? Did you really understand your customers in healthcare, stakeholders in healthcare? Do you have a winning value proposition for each little piece? And then because incentives vary so widely in healthcare, what you in the US, what works for a private insurers or an employer might look very different in Veterans Affairs or Medicare. And then in other countries, the healthcare system is again different. And so a lot of the problems in technology or in scaling technology are actually not technology related. And I think, if I want to call out risks, then it's really about forgetting that and just thinking technology only and first.
In the geographical game, maybe to you, Matias, because we mentioned the FDA, we mentioned US. There's APAC, China, cooking, looming around the corner, and of course we're in Europe here. So who's going to win? How do you see the speed between those regions and the play, and where can we set a stake as Europe?
There was a long discussion among the stakeholders that I'm involved in on whether the US system, the political US system, is in favor of training a better LLM than the Chinese system, which is, in my opinion, not true. Because there are several restrictions with regard to what can be said and what should not be said in the political system you have in China. Turns out that the Chinese system at least reached the same level of maturity than the US systems. But at the end it will we'll get down to resources, natural resources. No? We are talking about quantum computing and major investments in Europe in developing quantum computers in Europe. But where do you see these quantum computers, these infrastructures, being developed in Europe? Not it's very rare and at the early stage, and then the advanced ones are coming from the US. So obviously the environment in the US is much more in favor of those kind of developments, and they will be maybe the ones then that are controlling this technology. Regarding Gen AI, I see a big advantage in China, with maybe the risk that some of those systems that are being developed are being more biased. But they understand the market very well, and if you see how many nuclear plants they're currently building, then you know where the way is going to. In Europe, we are discussing a lot about European data sovereignty when it comes to foundation models. And the whole European market is very much into supporting these local large language models coming from Aleph Alpha, Mistral AI, Stability AI, to basically maintain European data sovereignty, to kind of stay the owner of the data, control the regulation around the data, and not leaving it out to that world. When I talk to employees, workshops with employees from large car manufacturers in Germany, and I say in this innovation workshop, let's not use ChatGPT. They know very well I will not touch it anyway, because IP protection is key. And the question is, can we protect our IP in Europe, which is so valuable? And I was talking about these clean data sources. Maybe we are the strongest in regulating that and in doing some sustainable investments in maintaining our clean data sources in Europe, whereas the Americans are trying and experimenting on everything and then not having that protection. Let's see. I don't know. We can see.
Yeah, maybe it's between the total laissez-faire in US and total control of data and total transparency for the state, even in China. Maybe there's, in the middle it can be just right. But what are your views on what would the end customer, if you need a cure, you need a certain device, what's your view on how the end customer, the patient, would react? Because if the patients hold back and say, look, no, I don't want to contribute, share my data, benefit from the other data, this cuts off, if the patient doesn't want to get immersed and be part of it, it cuts off a lot of the opportunities.
Yeah. It's definitely that the patient ultimately will and should have the strongest voice in this. just my personal experience, I've experienced patients actually to be much more open with sharing their data if they understand what it's for and also what exactly is being shared, right? Transparency, trust is super, super important. And I think there, you know, I like the question about, you know, who will win, but I also like that maybe a more likely scenario is that there will be kind of like regional solutions that do not mix. And so probably that relationship and that trust and that interaction of value might also differ from the kind of geographic region where that patient lives in, right? So we also know, like culturally, some groups are much more ready to share a lot of data. But if you, for example, see what patients, humans, share with big tech versus, you know, what I mean, we leading a program in digital health that is regulated, what we can actually like look at in terms of data, for every ounce of data, we have to really justify, explain, document, and you know, I agree with that. I'm not criticizing that, but basically then the floodgates are open as soon as you become a consumer and you're just sharing like everything. And so, I'm a little bit rambling. I'm trying to process the question in my head, but basically I don't think that in terms of patient acceptability, data is the critical factor. It's much more about, does it fit in my life? Do I see immediate benefits? Also challenging in healthcare because often it's about delaying progression, which doesn't feel so good, right? It just means that you get worse slower, which is always a difficult value proposition. But I mean, is the patient benefit immediately clear? Is the experience as friction-free and rewarding as possibly can for a medical product? I think these are more important to patients than data, in my experience.
Just maybe to add on it, I think it all comes back to education, how much the patient really understands what you do with the data and how close the data actually is. You don't give personal data, right? You cannot go back and identify the patient, who this patient was, just depending on the data. So it's in quantum and AI the same. It all comes back to education, I would say.
I mean, I made an interesting experience when talking to hospitals, because hospitals since many years used to mine data from patient records. And in the last like 3 to 4 years in a very advanced mode, trying to understand the scripting that the doctors did and trying to filter out the data, linking it to the case, anonymizing it and feeding it back to research and to the pharma companies that wanted to learn about the impact of medication on the patient's life. And I see now a twist with this generative AI technology because some of the hospitals are now thinking about opening the doors towards the patient because it was forgotten. You know, everybody was collecting data, but it got fed into research departments, pharma companies, whatever. And now with this new technology in place, you can think about a client life cycle. You know, if I go to a hospital, I'm seriously sick, I have a cancer case or whatever I have, and I need to enter a hospital, I have so many questions, you know, and the hospital is kind of an airport. How do you want to interact with an airport? You know, there are some chatbots now available, but it's a highly complex system, and you just need to play your role, but you need to understand how that goes. When you fly, you know exactly how to interact with the airport because maybe you've done it 20 times. But the cancer case in a hospital only happens one time. So what is your client experience? You have questions before you go into a hospital, you have questions while you are in there, you have questions afterwards. What I've seen now that there's a hospital developing a chatbot that helps to answer questions. You know, when will the doctor visit me when I'm lying in the bed? Not like when is the physio starting today and things like those, or kind of can I get more insights? And the chatbots are responding in a very smart way. And even joking, by the way, don't mistake that. So that's very interesting, and it opens a completely new perspective. And I'm not talking about a chatbot advising on kind of what medication you need to take. This is the doctor's role, or what kind of treatment you get. This is the doctor's role. But having this interaction on the process, on what's going on with me, you know, and how does it impact my schedule, and what can I expect and what not. And those things can be eased with those kind of technologies. And I like that. I like that. Now all of a sudden it opens up, and the human is in the middle, because we have these interacting bots supporting us. The intelligence around the table. I mean, if I listen to some of those Google managers, they would expect that the IQ of those agents will reach a level of 1,500 in the next decade. I mean, I cannot prove that, but people are talking about that, not?
So, maybe to you, Alexandra, what else is needed? Like, if you think the next 3 to 5 years, because you said we're not quite there yet, but what would we need? You know, the corporate world, public sector, education, universities, upskilling, etc., and even the employees, the staff, the people who have to deal with these new technologies. What would you say are the 3 things we need most to get that step change, at least halfway done in the next 5 years?
So for quantum and also for AI, I guess if I could only choose 3 things, one of it would be probably money. We need tremendous amounts of public money, of private money to develop the technology. The technology is, most of it, it's still in the laboratories, just coming out. So we need governments to engage with academics, to give money freely, I'm not thinking even of regulations. You know, I always ask myself, where is the boundary between regulation and innovation? It's a question that is not easy to answer. So one of it, I mean, in the last year, we just a number was published that $40 billion are deployed to develop quantum technology on the public side over the next 10 years. This is a lot. So one is money, but what then if the technology comes out of the laboratories, which is already happening, then we need to engage the industry. And the industry, it really needs bold players, bold actors that say, I want to try, I need to try. We see now in the collaboration between startups and industries, it's so hard for the startups to find industry partners because they don't see a rapid return, right? It's not money that you just, that you have a project, you invest money and then you earn money tomorrow. No, it's for the day after tomorrow. But this is also kind of what they have to understand. And it's like Matias was saying, if you're not in the game today, maybe you'd never enter the game again. It's a risk that you have to take. So one is industry engagement, and then of course we need to engage society. We need to educate very early children, normal people on the street, right? To tell them what can AI do for you? What can quantum do for you? Quantum, it's like out of a science fiction movie. I see science fiction movies with quantum and I think, oh my God, if people see this, what should they think about quantum? They get afraid of it, right? But it's a valuable technology that boosts AI technology even more. So education, engagement of the industry, and money to develop, maybe it's the main ingredients. And in general, I'm always preaching about building this ecosystem. So building ecosystem means for me to bring all the players together that are needed to develop a technology, a deep tech technology, a technology that is not understood by everyone. So we need academia to engage with venture capital, with industries, with other ecosystems worldwide. It's also a global development. And an ecosystem that is maybe the base layer of everything and to engage all partners, plus the public society.
I mean, there was one interesting insight that I gained like 2 weeks ago. There was a speech in the Singaporean government, parliament, where one of the members of the parliament did stand up and say, hey, we need an investment program as being Singapore, because we see that tech development is going at high speed, and we need an education program for the people beyond 40 So a secondary degree for the people beyond 40, because they finance the first degree, obviously not like we do, but they want the second degree to be financed by the government as well, because they see there's so much change happening that this is a substantial differentiator in the market. And otherwise, people would not be able to cope with what's happening currently without this education. And these are very, very strong signals, and we need to think about it. I think this is something where we need to take all of us with us to get there.
I think that's a super important point, and I think that's true whether that's the general public, whether that's healthcare personnel in clinical care, but also within, a pharma company. You are only enabled to unlock the potential of AI across your value chain if people understand the why, the how, the what, and the why, the what, and the how of it's going to happen. So I think what consistently happens is an underestimation of the change management it will require, because you cannot outsource technological disruption to a department or a unit or a company, right? The only way out is through, in a way, but you need to provide resources to handhold, and that's not just for classically trained physicians or pharma employees, whatever discipline they might be trained in, to upskill them in technology and like how it will disrupt, and that it will become uncomfortable for a moment, but then it will be better. Why are we doing it? Because at the end it's better, but first it's going to take some initiation energy. But vice versa, also for the technology department, the technology startups, the technology massive companies, the Magic 7, they need to understand healthcare, because a big barrier for them for disrupting healthcare was that they did not understand healthcare well enough, and healthcare is extremely complex. So it's kind of like upskilling everybody. No one is kind of excluded from that. Really, it's a system challenge, and it's massive change.
Would the three of you also, or what would be your viewpoints on how should or would corporations organize differently with their suppliers, with their employees? That's why, because we just said we had the upskilling topic. Will they work differently given the new technologies? Not only in research and development, but general, how companies interact in the market. We had the network, the ecosystem play. You have procurement topics. You have employee upskilling. Is there anything you would see as of today? What really changes how companies work?
I think the real unlock is there needs to be a full alignment of incentives. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, humans work with incentives wherever they are. And so as long as you don't have the incentives, you get some passionate individuals who do things regardless. But really, to change the systems, we need to change the incentives. And we need to change, we compensate for digital products, reimbursement pathways. We need to move over to value-based healthcare, which means data-driven healthcare, make data-enabled decisions. And everybody kind of needs to go on this journey and recommit to really changing incentives, because that's a lot of time the barrier to adoption, and that will be the true unlock, in my opinion.
Other opinions?
Yeah, maybe also changing values, right? So I was just having a meeting before, and we were looking at an AI case. And the guy who was presenting in the meeting, he was saying, yeah, and through this AI case, I could let 300 people go. That's great, So, and I was thinking, okay, if I had said this a few years ago, this would be absolutely no go. But today we should think about this will happen everywhere, and we need to think about what are our values. They are based today on money, on work. We get a reputation through work, but that will not happen in the future, right? We need really to see what do we do with our free time. It is great for 50% or 80% of the people not to go to work every day. For me, not. But a lot of people, they don't like their work because they work to earn money. And they can be displaced by a new species or technology, however you want it. So we need also maybe a shift in the values that we have in our society and economy. And if you ask how the technology will change also, maybe on a more technical side, for quantum, what can quantum computing do? Quantum does optimization and simulation of complex systems. And simulation of complex systems that will change tremendously the whole drug development, for example, or supply chain management. It will optimize so many processes in the industry, and we have to get ready for it. It's a game changer that we have never seen before in full speed. So if in 5 years, I think we will have a total different discussion, and we don't know how the discussion will look like. We don't have an idea how it will look like.
I initiated a generative AI task force within Bearing Point, and one of the first things that we delivered is an ethical statement, how we want to deal with this thing, what is coming. And I think this is very valuable for all of us as consultants when we interact with parties in the market, and that we have our ethical statement ready and say, hey, this is what we want to achieve by using the technology, considering as well sustainability targets, because when you train a simple model, it uses more power than 2 cars through a whole life cycle. Just be aware of it. So we really want to follow some standards there, the first thing. The second thing is, if you speak about technology and how we interact with each other, those highly complex supply chains as well. Pharma is feeding the complex supply chains until the final product reaches the patient. We are facing currently high complexity in interfacing systems. Forget about that interfacing in the future. There will be agents searching for each other, negotiating the interfaces, programming the interface, and then the human will just test the connection and it will work automatically. So all those things will interconnect automatically, and this is in 5 years' time. And then there's another aspect regarding, let's say, blue-collar workers, shop floor workers, and we see this now in the automotive market. In the automotive market, the digitalization is evolving very, very rapidly, and you have more and more complex systems that you need to manage to understand what's going on in that supply chain. You have complex expert systems that you interact with. But think about a shop floor worker that is walking around there, he needs some basic information. He needs this highly educated guy prompting the expert system to help him with some information. Forget about that in the future, because using generative AI, this blue-collar worker, shop floor worker can interact in verbal language with the system, and it gets translated into a highly complex prompt. The prompts the system, brings out the right information. So accessibility of those technologies is as well possible. So we don't exclude people from the process. There are new ways of working as well for people with less education. But we need to understand the full picture to be able to really design the future, how it needs to be. There's a place for everybody. But overall, our productivity will be boosted massively, and there will be completely new options. As well, language barriers. There are no language barriers anymore. If you run a training program for a global rollout, a global transformation program, you develop the training material in one language, and then the videos will completely be translated into other languages, and you cannot distinguish whether this person who is speaking in the video is generated by AI or is an original one. So there is so much speed in getting closer to people, helping people, onboarding people in core processes. As I said, the man in the loop, the human in the loop.
So you mentioned less skilled workers. Good that we have a place for them. What about the maybe more highly skilled workers? Because who is going to orchestrate that? If we have quantum as the accelerator for AI, and this thing is unstoppable, as you just said, who's going to be on top of it? Is it still going to be us? Are we just going to pull the plug if we say they're doing strange things? Or how are we going to channel and grasp this tech rise and the human beings that are still there? Because we're used to being in charge, right? And we want to stay in charge. So what do we do?
Yeah.
I actually really like this example that you shared where traditionally it's been the blue-collar worker that is the closest to being replaced by anything, right? But actually, generative AI is really coming for the knowledge worker, and often like first and very qualified. I mean, I know of friends in like high-level data science positions that say, oh no, and generative AI can basically do 80% of what I do like right now, right? And so it's really about, I think the challenge of any person is to really kind of keep up with technology and what their role is in this interaction. And, we shared like competencies such as creativity, collaboration, empathy, and prompt engineering, you can also just say communication, are going to be much more important than really hard skills, because the hard skills are first changing at a pace where you cannot keep up, and then second are being now outsourced to the tech itself. And so I'm an optimist. I'm not a naive, but I'm also not alarmist. I'm an optimist, but we have to, I think it's going to be for the benefit of humanity, but we really have to go in eyes wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And then don't forget the big tech, not? People are looking very often at Elon Musk and his visions that he has. And Elon is very much into optimizing or to understand the human-to-machine interaction. This is why he's so interested in learning from you how you drive the car. He bought X or Twitter just to understand how you react in a very spontaneous mode in Twittering. And you consume information and you react on it. So he's learning a lot, and I think his toolkits that he will push to market are very much driving our knowledge workers as well. And the question is who is then the boss of AI? Is it a guy like Elon Musk and his firm, his company that is driving that, or who is it? We need to try to understand that to develop our own strategies and how to do that, not to be trapped by such massive intelligence that is driving then the way we're thinking even.
I think we can see two movements, right? Like you said, moving the power from countries or from politics, actually, from democratic countries maybe, to big companies. And then also in quantum, there is a big race it's really a race, who wins, who will first have the technology ready. And we have to understand, now we talk about nice life science, drug development use cases, but quantum is also a defense technology. And who has the power over this technology first? We don't know who it will be and what they will do. So there started actually a race between the US, Europe, Asia, who might have the technology first. And we see that China is getting very strong in, for example, cryptography, quantum communication, that, like you mentioned also, the US is getting very strong in hardware, Europe is more strong in software, algorithm development, and we just have to be aware of it. And again, I repeat it all the time, but we need to educate, we need to raise awareness that this is going to happen. And then also another question, what's happening to the global south? Do they have access to this technology or not? Will the gaps get bigger or smaller through this technology? All this we need to discuss. There is people taking care of, but it has to be implemented somehow in politics, in companies, in our heads, in our behavior.
Do you think Switzerland and or the European continent is courageous enough, outspoken enough on this or not? Still holding back? Or too complicated?
To tackle the
to just
topics?
get going. To be part of the game and to have its own stake as a country, as a continent.
Some countries are stuck even in the digitalization process, and how do we want to take this challenge?
Exactly.
I have questions.
Okay, they have to solve that first and then we go quantum.
It's really, the challenges of Europe, I feel, are not mindset, but we are just uniquely hindered by our large geographic fragmentation,
totally,
right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be really challenging. But at the same time, we also have, amazing institutions, Switzerland, but all of Europe, so who will form the bright minds of tomorrow.
And the risk around quantum cryptography, we didn't talk about that, but there is this theme in the market. Stored today decrypt tomorrow. Not, I mean, if you look at retention periods of information, you need to retain information as a corporate in a time period of like 10 years. What attackers are currently doing, they store the data that is currently communicated via internet channels or where they have access to via other channels, store it, and when quantum cryptography is available, or the quantum computing is available to decrypt the current encrypted information, they will use it then to open the doors to this kind of record-saved information, which is not quantum cryptographic ready. So there's a big risk coming to us, and I think we as Europeans or in Switzerland can really take the right decisions today to invest into that new technology to be safe. At the end, we may be one of the safe places in the world. Not?
Maybe from an investor's point of view, what we see is that we have a lot of money to invest, private money to invest into startups, pre-seed, early-stage startups, but as soon as they have to raise serious money, they go out of Europe. So we educate them here, and they go out to the US. So that they take the technology, the IP with them outside of Europe. And this is also a problem we have to work on.
Agree, fully agree. Thanks for now. We've got questions from the audience piling up, some of them. And first up, we haven't touched that one yet, because we need electricity, we need data, we need power, resources to operate all this. Now, you could argue, what about the sustainability aspect? Because we also have to save the planet while becoming tech savvy. So what's your view on that?
I see basically currently a worst case scenario just happening, because, you know, everybody is buying an electric car or trying to buy an electric car and doing micro steps in reducing the energy consumption on a personal base. At the same time, we are blowing up the consumption on the AI and Gen AI side, and this is not at all in balance, you know, because the one thing is scaling up exponentially, the other thing is going step by step. If we talk about time scales of 20 years or something, and this is a joke, not, and nobody seems to be aware of it. And as I said, the Chinese building 50 nuclear power plants. The SoftBank CEO, Son, he did come up with a simulation and said, look, if this is all going to happen here, then Japan in 20 years needs 600 more power plants just to serve the demand of the AI. Think about that. This is completely contradicting politics currently. Not? It's completely contradicting. And this is not at all regulated, because there is no regulator looking at that.
Yeah. I think we should definitely, raise awareness around this topic. But for many people, they are not even aware of the enormous energy needs and other disruptions that, you know, these big factories, server factories can have. So I think awareness, and then the other, I'm kind of always coming back to the focus. Really think, where do you want to apply this technology? It's not about, you know, applying it everywhere, and should there be some sort of regulation around where can we justify immense energy needs, or should there be some sort of environmental tax on some of this usage, right? So just to say that I don't think it's even really a topic, and it should be a topic.
Further take on the aspect of developing the people to embrace. So for one, would you have any insights on which competencies are needed to be best of breed in these new technologies, and where to get them? Certain schools, universities you work with, you'd want to recommend if somebody is eager to learn and to become part of the story?
Maybe that speaks to the education I enjoy, but I feel like you really need to learn outside of formal education. Formal education brings you really good foundation, but the problem is that the curriculum kind of lags behind the real world developments in this space. And really, like, there is not, we spoke, you know, 10 years ago, we already spoke about continuous learning. And what we meant by that is, like, every 5 years you do a course or something. But like now, like every day you don't learn, you fall behind. and that has to kind of be instilled in your persona. And so I feel like curiosity, difficult word, and just like a radical willingness to never stop learning is really important. And so I don't know if you can formally instill that, but I'm still, like, formal education is still very important. So go to school, kids, but yeah, just never stop learning.
I mean, we had that challenge within Bearing Point, not with 6,000 employees, and we started on that journey to kind of train ourselves and getting ready, because we are the consultants. We need to be ahead of the pack, and then we need to advise our clients on that. And there was no such training available because the market is on the move. Not everything is developing and evolving very quickly. And so what we did is then to set up a standard training path that we developed internally, and we adjust on the fly. And currently there are like 2,000 people really trained. We can prove 2,000 are really trained. There's still 4,000 to go, which is massive after like having launched a program a year ago. Not? And it's continuing. But what we did as well with the experts is, you have these long stories around building use cases for generative AI and AI. For me, it's not a use case thing. It's more like an overall transformation topic that we need to address. But we use the use cases to learn. So now our people are learning massively learning, especially on that human-to-machine interaction and how to design these intelligent processes. And it's an ongoing thing. And I guess that very soon there will be really customized trainings on the market. I mean, we know the MIT training curriculums for AI, but this is just not enough. It's, things moving too fast. We need more quick adoptions. And for us as a consultant, the answer was we had to set up our own program that is like evolving with the market. I'm in discussion with Professor Meinl, the former director of the Hasso-Plattner Institute, and he's launching a virtual university. And he wants to kind of embrace like dozens of years of learnings in the digital learning space that he collected during his time at the Hasso-Plattner Institute, and then bring up this virtual university that is really at peer with the highest end universities in the market. And he's specifically focused on the digital topics and AI and Gen AI topics. So we will see those offerings being pushed to market going forward. And by the way, we had a discussion as well during lunch. A region that is heavily investing in that is the Middle East, interestingly enough. Mm-hmm. Middle East has a lot of money. They don't know what to do with the money and where to invest. They're investing in ramping up universities, virtual universities.
They could do worse.
Yeah,
good
cool.
choice.
But speaking of the South or other geographies, yeah, valid point. Would you generally say using these new technologies is best deployed for answering to challenges we haven't solved, unmet need, or to improving cures, etc., for stuff we're already on top of, where we know something, or curing the unresolved disease? What's wiser, more likely?
I think maybe I have too much faith in capitalism, but I'm kind of hoping that eventually the market will help guide these decisions, or at least, let's say, 80% of it, with areas of high met need attracting more interest. But I think that's where the whole kind of business models, reimbursement frameworks really need to mature. Mm. And then you also put an important point forward in that all these technologies give rise to so many ethical questions. And then who do we put in the position of answering those for us? Because there should be someone actually in charge of answering those. Yeah. Alexandra, I think.
No, I think it's a bit both, right? I mean, the challenges we face might stay the same, but the opportunities how to solve them, they grow maybe. Like when I come back to pharma development or drug development, there was a company, now I don't remember the name, in Hong Kong. It was the first company that did actually find the first molecule, totally AI-driven, and also developed a medicine out of it. So, and this molecule they have never thought of, right? So this is maybe the things, the challenge stays the same, finding a molecule for a disease, but the approach is getting much easier to find the solution. And I don't know, with the development, I'm sure we find more problems that we could solve. But I think it's a huge advantage first to solve the problems we already have. And we have a lot of problems, right? We have climate change is one of the problems. Finding molecules, we talk about it a lot. I don't think that it will solve anything, but not in short term to filter CO2 out of the atmosphere, for example. This is use cases. We always talk about thinking that it will save the world, which it will not, but it's a challenge also finding new ways of nourishing the world. All these things, that is the challenges that we have, and I think the technology we will use first to tackle the challenges we know already.
And that would be super good, but there are not only good people in the world. And we had the ethical discussion, we had the power, the geopolitical power shift, and investment opportunities, but there might also be the evil chap out there not playing along the rules, not because he or she is investing nicely, but wanting to win the power play and get hands of the regime in question on top of the data, harnessing these capabilities, etc. So what should we in the world do to potentially avoid this? There might always be the odd chap out there trying something we don't expect.
I mean, what we are currently doing is really learning and how to identify kind of fraud in things that get generated with generative AI. We are currently, as I said, not so much focused on developing specific use cases, but we are more investing time and effort in developing toolkits that can challenge what gets produced. And this is on the fraud side, but as well on the benefit side. Not like when you see a result, currently when you get a result coming from a LLM, you don't know whether this is a jailbreaked LLM or whether this is the true LLM, that you're speaking to. But you need to have tools in place that can help you to understand this. And you might be well aware of the fact that when you prompt an LLM on Monday, it may produce different results than when you prompt it on Friday, which is weird, no? So what kind of toolkit do we need to understand what's going on? And we are investing time in developing those toolkits, or trying to interact with people that are investigating that space, to learn from them and from each other. That's I think very, very important, and we need to be very, very well prepared for that world to come. I mean, now Hollywood videos. I mean, you might have seen the latest news. The Hollywood videos can be produced by just like compiling text. You enter text, a script book, and then at the end you get a video from it that is at a similar level than these early stage Hollywood movies, which is crazy. And then the question is, what is real, what is not real? And we need our tooling be ready to see that coming, and then to judge on whether it's right or not. By the way, there's an interesting anecdote. When you produce videos using Gen AI, they have these artifacts like 6 fingers or something like that, not? You see that on the video. And the criminals in the US, we learned, they use a plastic 6 finger to put it on their hand when they know they pass by a CCTV, a camera, so that when the video is recorded, it cannot be used in front of the judge.
It just shows that all of this technology is a superpower, right? And so who gets to yield it is the question. And so we just have to make sure we have more good people with that superpower than bad.
And then let's finish off with a local question. What about the future of AI and quantum in Basel?
Oh.
It's here. You mean really locally in
the Basel area?
So I think we have a very, very strong position already. We have all the ecosystem it needs. We have the technology players, we have the startups, we have a lot of money to invest in technology, in startups, every stage. We have the not only the tech players, we also have the users, like the companies, Novartis, Roche, all the big companies that will use quantum technology. I think we are in a pole position, and yeah, we already are, and we should use the momentum to do something great out of it.
Agree.
What she said.
I think we all agree. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone here in the audience. Thank you, especially to our speakers today. So really big thanks. So before we close, I want to invite you to keep learning. As Leslie said, you need to learn every day, right? And here are 3 great opportunities for you to keep learning. So I want to make sure you save the date for June 10th for our next open mic here at the Novartis Pavilion that will be announced very soon. Also, for the next event, oh, now I lost my slide. Thank you. The Boom Summit happening here in Basel on April 10th and 11th, where we are bringing really life science and healthcare innovators from all over the world to challenge the status quo and to have these conversations on what do we need to, what's going to be next in health, what do we need to do to make it happen. And to extend you an invitation on March 20th here in Novartis for an event on AI for healthy cities, an event from Novartis Foundation, where I'm sure the conversation on where AI is going and how it's going to be moving is going to be continuing. So now, just extend again a thanks to Novartis and Bearing Point for sponsoring us, and especially for sponsoring our nice apero, where you can get there and keep the conversation, keep learning, keep engaging, and see you soon. Thank you.